If you're a C-sharp developer, you know the feeling, right? You're comfortable in your world of Visual Studio, WinForms, desktop apps. It just makes sense. But then you look at the modern web, and frameworks like Laravel, well, they can feel like they're from a different galaxy. So how do you cross that divide without having to start over from page one? Let's figure that out.
I mean, you look at something like PHP and Laravel when you come from a C-sharp background, and it's a lot. The syntax is different, the way projects are structured is different, the whole ecosystem feels alien. It's easy to think you have to just throw out everything you've learned to even get your foot in the door.
And yeah, that's the wall so many of us hit. It's not just about learning new code, it's about learning a whole new way of thinking. But what if there was a cheat code? What if you could take all that knowledge you already have and use it as a direct translation guide? Well, that's exactly what we're going to build.
So here's the plan. We're going to create our own personal Rosetta Stone. We're going to use an AI tool, in this case Google's NotebookLM, to act as a live translation layer. The whole idea is to feed it our C-sharp way of thinking and have it spit back the Laravel equivalent. But, and this is key, explaining it in terms we already get.
Okay, so how do we actually build this AI translator? Well, first things first, we've got to give it a brain. And for that to work, it needs to become an expert in two things: where we're going, which is Laravel, and where we're coming from, my old C-sharp code.
The setup is actually really simple. First, we just upload the entire documentation for Laravel Livewire 3.0. Just like that, the AI is now a Livewire expert. But then comes the magic trick. We also upload the source code from an old C# project I worked on. Now, the AI doesn't just know Laravel, it knows how I think. It knows how I code.
With all that context loaded up, it all comes down to asking the right question. The prompt is everything. I'm not asking for some generic textbook definition. I'm basically saying, hey, you know my background. Speak my language. Explain this to me using only the WinForms analogies you know I'll understand.
And bam, the result is instantaneous. And it's perfect. It doesn't give me some dry technical jargon. It gives me the perfect analogy. It says, a Livewire component? Oh, that's basically a WinForms user control but for the web. And that render method you see? Think of it as your initialized component. Just like that, this weird alien concept is suddenly familiar. I get this. I can work with this.
All right, so now that we've got that conceptual bridge built, we can start translating the actual code and patterns. This is where our Rosetta Stone really starts to shine, taking things we've been doing for years and showing us their mirror image in this new world.
Let's start with something basic, like state management. You know, in a C# desktop app, I just declare a private field, private int count, to keep track of a number. Easy. So what's the Livewire way? A public property. Look at that. It's a direct one-to-one translation. The AI showed me exactly how to create a variable that just sticks around, just like a field in a Windows form.
And this is so much bigger than it looks. That public property, it's stateful. The server remembers its value between clicks, between interactions, just like a desktop app does. You know what this means? It means you don't have to write a bunch of API endpoints just to handle simple temporary data. It just works the way you'd expect it to.
Okay, for me, this was the real aha moment. In C#, what do? We double-click a button in the designer and boof, Visual Studio creates our click event handler. In the typical web world, that same simple action would mean writing JavaScript, setting up an AJAX call, handling the response. It's a whole song and dance.
But then, NotebookLM shows me this little bit of Livewire magic. Wire.click. And that's it. That's the whole thing. You add that little attribute to your button, and it's directly wired to a method back in your component class on the server. It is the absolute moral equivalent of a C# event handler. And the best part? No JavaScript. None.
And the similarities just keep coming, even down to database queries. As a C# developer, I basically live and breathe LINQ. So I asked the AI to translate a simple LINQ query. And what it came back with? The Laravel eloquent version? I mean, just look at it. The syntax is almost identical. The way you think about filtering and getting data, it's the exact same flow.
So translating code is one thing, but what really made everything fall into place was another feature in NotebookLM, the audio overview. It basically took my sources and generated a conversation between two AIs, talking about the high-level philosophy of Livewire.
Listening to this was like sitting in on a meeting with two senior architects who were explaining it all just for me. The first AI just hits the nail on the head. The whole point of Livewire is to bring that seamless, stateful desktop app experience right into a web browser.
And then the second AI just drives it home. It's all about erasing that line between the front end and the back end.
You're not building two different things that have to talk to each other through an API. You're just building a class, a single, unified component that handles everything.
And hearing the why, the philosophy behind the framework, explained just like that was the final piece of the puzzle for me. It wasn't just about syntax anymore. Suddenly the entire architecture, the whole reason Livewire even exists, became completely clear.
So after all this, what was the actual result? What did this AI-powered learning journey actually let me accomplish? Let's look at the final score.
By using these direct analogies, I was able to get a real working web application up and running in just 20 minutes. And the incredible part wasn't the speed. It was that I was using the same programming logic and the same patterns I learned more than 10 years ago, in a totally different language.
And really, that's the big takeaway here. State management, event handling, querying data, these concepts are universal. Your experience isn't outdated. The syntax might look a little different, sure, but the fundamental principles of good engineering, they don't change. Your skills are absolutely transferable. Which leaves us with a final thought to chew on. If you're a developer who feels kind of stuck in an older tech stack, maybe you're looking at it all wrong. Maybe that experience isn't a liability. Maybe all that old code is actually your ultimate cheat code for mastering whatever comes next.